What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of Dev and the Bear. Today we're going to be talking about UFC 275, headlined by Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prahashka for the light heavyweight title. There's a lot of notable names on the prelim card, but one of the fights that could either be very boring or very interesting is Jacob Malcoon and Brendan Allen. We've seen Jacob Malcoon come in, and he's making a name for himself by getting to these decision wins, using his wrestling, but he's known for his hands, so I'm kind of waiting to see that with him. But he's going to be going in there with Brendan Allen. I don't think he's going to strike with Brendan Allen.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Brendan Allen as well, though, is, his base started in jiu-jitsu. And it's crazy to see that we haven't seen it in a while, because we haven't, the guys that he's fought lately hasn't really been wrestling-based. And so I think that's going to change, though, with this one. It's really going to make... what's his name? It's really going to make Malcoon second guess if he wants to take him down or not, because he's going to be more than willing to say, screw it, we'll just keep this on the ground. But with Malcoon, though, he's got good hands, but I think what's happened with him, though, is at his first debut fight in the UFC, he got knocked out by Phil Halls, and so he's been sticking to his wrestling because that's been able to give him,
his next fight was... Razak Al Hassan.
Yeah.
And that I don't blame him for not wanting to strike with that guy.
Yeah, that dude has 10 first round finishes, something like that.
He knocks people out.
And so the thing about with that is I don't know, it's going to be kind of up in the air on what happens with that, but I think after Malcoon got knocked out, it kind of made him think, hey, I need to rethink what I want to do, and it's getting him the win. You're getting your win in your show bonus, so I think it's something to look out for. But this is going to be a fight that you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is definitely one to look out for.
Yeah, so the main card is going to open up with Jack Della Maddalena and Ramazan Emeev. And we've seen both of those guys fight before, and they can both be very exciting. I think Jack Della Maddalena is the favorite for a reason, though.
Yeah.
I think his striking, he's just a bit more put together. I think he's a bit more explosive with the way that he fights, and I'm thinking he's going to get the knockout.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for a good knockout to start the card off. It's gonna be definitely one of the stylistic matches of the striker versus grappler. I think Maddalena, he's 11-2 with 9 knockout wins. His last 2 losses were at the beginning of his career, and you really can't ever dictate on how good someone is going to be so early in their career. And I think he's shown that. I mean, since that, he's been on an 11-fight win streak. And so I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, I definitely see why he's the favorite, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that many knockouts, who's just that explosive at welterweight. I mean, it's just,
And then on the other hand, you have Emeev, who's been going to decision, I think, for his last 5 to 6 fights, something like that. And he's won most of them. So he's ready for a long fight. I don't think this fight's going to go the distance.
Yeah, the last time Emeev got a finish was 2016.
Yeah.
So it was a submission by Andy Konacho. Besides that, I mean, he's had 7 fights in the UFC. All have been by decision. Even his losses were by. He's 5-2 right now, all by decision. And so he kind of seems like he's kind of I would say kind of in limbo. He's been fighting.
He's trying to figure out where he's at in the UFC, trying to kind of adjust to the level there.
Yeah. So it's one definitely look out for. A good one to start off the main card with.
And then we have Jake Matthews fighting Andre Fialo. That fight I'm very excited for. I'm a big fan of Jake Matthews, and I've quickly become a fan of Fialo.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not, though? Yeah. This guy, in 56 days, if he wins, he beats Hazmat's record for most wins in the shortest amount. Three wins in the shortest amount of time with 56 days. Hazmat is at 66. And that's an impressive record to have. I mean, this guy is literally just going out there and saying, nah, just give me anything you can get. And his last 2 fights all have been by knockout.
And it's not even like he's going out there and just fighting nobodies. He fought Miguel Baeza. He fought Michel Pereira, and he didn't win that fight. That was kind of a weird one, Anytime you watch Michel Pereira fight, it's a weird one. And then Cameron Van Camp was expected to come out there and look really good, and he did. He just ended up getting caught.
And that was
Andre waits for it, and he finds it, and he knocks you out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough first debut fight into the UFC against somebody like Andre Fialo. Like you said, his only loss is against Michel Pereira, and I mean, with Pereira's fights is either they're really exciting or they're just kind of stale at the same time.
Because he's running around jumping all over the place, but realistically, nothing's going on.
Yeah. I don't know. I have my own opinions on that whole style of fighting, but yeah, man, Fialo is. I mean, he's on the come up. This easily could right here put him into a top 15 fight. You know, and
I've been watching Jake Matthews for a long time.
Yeah,
I really like that guy. I'd love to see him string together some wins. It's been a while since he's really been out there making a noise. It's hard, but I kind of want Fialo to win this.
I'm rooting for Fialo. I always like these quick rises like this. It's always exciting. I mean,
and it's not like they're being pushed. He's not being pushed. He's just taking the fights.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fighters now that don't do that. And in fact, they won't do that.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more popular to not do that. And I don't like that. So
Yeah.
I like Fialo. I like how he handles things.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he gets the win.
For sure. I mean, like you said before, it reminds me a lot like Gregor Gillespie, who just got removed from the rankings. Still in the UFC, but I mean, he doesn't want to find anybody below him, and it's kind of what happens if Fialo is just like, give me whoever you got. You know, this dude's he's fighting for a check and he's proving it. You know, so I'm excited for this one. Like I said before, classic striker versus grappler matchup, and it's one to definitely look forward to.
And then we got the first of 3 title fights. You know how the UFC loves to put 3 title fights on one card.
Yep. Wait, 2.
So we have Shevchenko. Oh, right. Weili Zhang and Joanna Jacek is not a title fight.
You're used to seeing it as a title fight, though, right?
Yeah. Those are 2 champions.
And what's even more nuts about this is a 3-round fight. Like the last time we got spoiled.
Yeah, that's so freaking weird.
Yeah.
I can't believe I thought it was a title fight, but I also can't believe it's not a title fight.
Yeah, we got pretty spoiled with the first fight.
Yeah.
I mean, that is probably one of the greatest fights you will ever witness right there, with it being 5 rounds. And so hopefully it's just, and I mean, in 3 rounds, you might see a finish this time now.
Yeah, I think this fight's going to go very similar. I think Weili Zhang approaches it differently, though.
Yeah.
I think her coming off of the losses that she's come off of, she's going to really start honing in on what she needs to do.
Yeah.
And I think she gets it done and gets the win.
Yeah, I think she talked about using her wrestling in this fight.
I could see her doing that.
She said that she's been working with Coach Henry Cejudo a lot on her wrestling, and she said that if she doesn't use it, it's just going to feel like a waste, you know? And so I'm excited to see her use that wrestling. She's stocky, dude. Like, she's very strong. She's super athletic as well. Like, anything she does, she's very good at. And you know, Joanna Jacek, I mean, we haven't seen her fight in a very long time. And she's talking about, you know, fighting for gold after this. And so her last fight was 2 years ago against Zhang Weili.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to definitely be, you know, it's kind of weird that we're kind of going through this weird deja vu type thing with Joanna, you know, trying to get the title shot. Carla just beat Rose for the title and stuff. And
history repeats itself.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Such a weird situation.
And they're all in such different aspects of their career that they're all running into each other again. So I think it's definitely going to be a really good fight. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a barn burner. Even if it's not as much stand up as the last one, I think there's still going to be somebody's going to put on a great performance to where it's like it's still going to be a fun fight. You know.
I definitely agree. So 2 title fights is what we have, and the first of the 2 is Valentina Shevchenko against Tyla Santos. We've said it before. Everyone has said it before. This is the first time that Valentina Shevchenko has gone against an actual really good grappler until they're in there with her. That's what is happening. But I think this is the time where she's fought an actual really, really well-versed jiu-jitsu grappler, because we saw her with
Joanne Wood.
Not Joanne Wood. Her last, not the last fight, not the one before Lauren Murphy.
I'm trying to get this shit going. So Jillian Robertson,
Jessica Andrade. I'm sorry.
You're talking about Shevchenko.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about
Jessica Andrade. When she fought Andrade, you know, that was the whole like, oh, this is a real grappler this time, so it might be a little different. No, not really. That was actually pretty sad.
Yeah.
But I do think that Santos is gonna come in and be a little bit different. Do I think it's gonna matter? No, I don't. I think Valentina's gonna get the win.
Yeah.
It's just I think she's gonna have to fight Tyla the way that she fought Lauren. She's gonna have to be smart and make sure she picks her shots and does things methodically as opposed to just going in there and getting the win.
For sure. I mean, whenever you're going against a fighter who's 19-1 with most of those wins being by knockout, 10 of them to be exact, I mean, you have to be careful. Obviously, if for somebody who's so well versed on the ground but has that many knockout finishes, I mean, you have to recognize there's something there that you cannot play around with. And, I think with Shevchenko's last fight, it could be perceived as a little boring because there's a little bit of a stalemate up until the finish. But it's because, with Lauren Murphy, it's like you can train all you want until you get in there against, Shevchenko, you don't know what to do. I mean, when you get in there, it's just like it's easy to freeze under that type of pressure, and you're fighting against somebody who's as good as Valentina Shevchenko.
And I think what that fight says about Lauren Murphy is she was a lot tougher than the rest of the people.
Yeah.
Because what Valentina will say is she's like, I break people in the fight, and then I win. And she's like, I know when you're broken, when I see it in their eyes, I see it in their face while they're fighting, and it's just not the same. And so she was like, with Lauren, like it took longer for her to break.
Yeah.
But she broke just like everybody else. It just took longer.
And I like Lauren Murphy a lot.
Yeah.
I think she's a great fighter. I think she's fun to watch. I mean, she's definitely earned a name for herself coming from the Ultimate Fighter. And, I feel like there was a little bit of a stigma with her because of the whole issues she had with Eddie Alvarez being an asshole all the time. And so I think with that, there's just a little bit of that going on. That she went in there and she did what she could. I mean, she fought against, the best women's flyweight in the world right now. There's really nobody else that can keep up to that extent, Yeah. And so with that though, like Talia Santos, I think this is we're seeing her Valentina Shevchenko get challenged more and more each fight. We can't deny that at all. People will say, "Oh, it's Valentina Shevchenko." Everyone says the same thing. She's not perfect. Every opponent says the same thing, but realistically, look at the level of competition as time's going on. Though, I mean, you're seeing these prospects turn into contenders while she's been champion, and then it's slowly starting to get higher and higher, and so I just think that's what's going to happen with this is just, I mean, I think she has a pretty tough challenge in front of her right now.
I think this will be the first time we see her legitimately tested during her title reign.
Yeah. There was one fight where we saw her get tested a little bit. I'm trying to remember who it was against.
Amanda Nunes?
It might be Amanda Nunes. But I mean, she's been tested before, but like you said, I think this is the actual one where you're going in there I think she got tested in the sense that you didn't expect it. I think this fight though, you going into this one, it's like there's a reason why. Hey man, it might not be as easy as you think.
Yeah.
Her fight against Jennifer Maia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, even though it was pretty one-sided in some way, some aspect, Jennifer Maia gave her a good fight though. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this is one that you just can't blink on because we've seen underdogs. They're coming up. They're fucking showing out. And
Joanna Pena knocked out.
Yeah,
Amanda Nunes. Can't forget that.
I think I told you when that first happened too. I think 2022 is the year of the underdog. I
think ever since you said that though,
they've lost.
They've all lost.
Yeah, I think we actually joked about that too, and I was pretty upset about that. I'm like, man, I hate making statements before too early. So.
But yeah. So that brings us to the main event, which is Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prahashka. And it's just such a wild matchup. You have the old guy who's been around forever, who's beaten everybody, who's lost to all the big names. And he's come back. He's taken all this time, all this experience, all this knowledge, and really sharpened his skills as to the best that they're ever going to be. And he won the championship.
Yeah.
And he's fighting a guy who we know very little about. He's only had 2 fights in the UFC. We know he's a fantastic striker. We've seen that in his past fights with, was it Ryzen?
Yep.
So we kind of know what he can do. But he goes out there and he's a mystery every time he's in there.
Yep.
And it's just wild. So it's going to be a really interesting fight. The way I see it going down, and I think we're both kind of on the same page, is Yuri is very unpredictable. He's very, I don't want to say sloppy, but it's a little bit. He's got his hands down. He walks around with his hands down a lot, and the way he throws things, he doesn't always leave himself protected. And I think Glover is the veteran, and he's going to show that. And he's going to end up taking advantage of that, whether it be shoot in for a takedown or catch Yuri with a good shot.
Right.
But I think no matter what, I think Glover gets the finish.
I think so too. I really like Yuri Prahashka.
It's hard going against him.
I mean,
and it's
he's
not
so
necessarily that I'm going against him. He could win just as easily as Glover can.
Yeah, I feel like the hype with him is there. It reminds me a lot of watching Brock Lesnar come in the UFC because he only had 2 fights, and then next thing you know, he's fighting for a championship, and it's not something we see very often.
I think there was a lot of crap with that too, though. People who weren't able to line up for a title shot
with Lesnar.
Yeah, well, because they picked Lesnar over people because they weren't gonna be able to get a title shot for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing about Lesnar too, though, is like that the heavyweight division was pretty dead for a while until he came in.
And Dana wanted it anyway. That's why he brought him there.
Hey, man, I mean, there's a reason why Lesnar still holds one of the records for most pay-per-view sales up until Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. But with Yuri Prahashka, though, I mean, you have to tune into this dude and watch him fight. He's very much like, I love that mindset that he has. Like, no, I don't even have a game plan. I just go in there and fight because. Yeah. I want to keep this honorable. This is what it's about. Is you take whatever you can get in there and you make it happen. I mean, while I think he's a phenomenal fighter, I think he's gonna do great things. Glover Teixeira with this second prime is fucking nuts. Like he's going in there, his boxing looks better. He's not getting hit as much. His wrestling, and he's adapted with his jiu-jitsu and put some American style wrestling into it, and it's making it pretty entertaining as well. So I'm excited to see how this fight goes, but I think I mean, you look at Prahashka's record, and this is me probably just doing MMA math to be honest with you, but I don't know if he has the gas tank to go 5 rounds like Glover does. I mean, Glover got a late finish against Anthony Smith on his way to the title. He's shown to have some top tier conditioning. He stayed
dominant in those last couple minutes too.
Yeah, I mean, and he's literally like not like he's obviously sweating. He looks a little tired, but he still looks fresh, for being in like the later rounds. And I think that's what's gonna hurt Yuri. I think we saw when Yuri fought Dominic Reyes. Both those guys were tired by the second round. They were exhausted.
Especially with the pace that they fought at.
Yeah.
And Yuri's going to go out there and try to fight at that same pace because that's what he does.
Yeah.
You saw him do it to Vulcan. You saw him do it to Dominic.
Yeah.
You can't do that against someone like Glover. He's too smart. And he always has been that kind of smart, too. That's one of the things that Chuck Liddell talked about with him. He was like, the reasons I jumped on him is because I saw the way he would throw his punches, and I was like, this kid's going to be big.
Yeah.
And he's right. He's right to this day.
Yeah, I mean, he is like he became a champion. How old was he? 42, 43?
42, I think.
I mean, it's just crazy to know. Like, I wonder how earlier he would have been champion if John Jones wasn't there.
Yeah.
I mean, Glover Teixeira is showing that. I mean, just the hard work and dedication. Just no matter what, as long as you put in the work, it's going to show out. And it's nice to see that he finally got what was coming to him. But with this fight, though, to get back on track, it's a hard fight to choose. But like we talked about too, is like I texted you the other day, is when fighters leave that second prime, like they leave it pretty rough. Like they go out in pretty dramatic fashion, Like when we've seen it with, I'm trying to remember the other guy. We're seeing a Korean Zombie right now. We're seeing it with Robbie Lawler. We're seeing it with just a handful of fighters. Even Donald Cerrone had a second prime whenever. Up to leading to fighting Tony Ferguson for the title eliminator. There's a handful of fighters that get in that second prime. They get in a good mindset. They feel great again, but they can't. Whenever they lose that one fight, it's very, very dramatic fashion. Someone's getting knocked out or choked out or something,
And that could easily be this fight with Yuri.
Yeah.
The way that Yuri strikes,
yeah,
it could be any moment.
And Glover gets touched, man. He does get tagged a little bit there. Like his boxing defense has gotten a little tighter, so you don't really see it as much. But like I told you, is like his fight against Ion Cutelaba with Glover is like that fight kind of like the aggression that he shows kind of reminds me a little bit of Yuri. And Ion was showing some trouble. I mean, showing some, like, he was hitting him some good shots in that fight. And so the thing about Yuri, I think Yuri has shown to be hit a little harder and crisper than Ion Cutelaba. And
he comes out there with a very traditional, like, karate stance almost, so his shots have better angles on him.
He punches a tree 500 times a day. Yeah.
So he says.
Yeah. I wish people would get like hyped about these other karate based fighters. I know Yuri's exciting and we should be behind him, but you know. So
But yeah, that's UFC 275. Let us know your thoughts. It should be a pretty fun one. It's going to be a pay-per-view, so it's going to be expensive.
Yep.
But maybe try and watch it.
Gas is up, pay-per-view prices are up.
Yeah, everything's just expensive these days.
I'm tired of this, man.
You know what else is expensive?
What's that?
These Fury amateur cards. But it's worth paying it when it goes to Hayden Bryers.
I like that lead up. That was nice.
Yeah, the Fury Amateur Series is coming up this Sunday. I'm pretty excited for it. There's a lot of guys that I've been looking out watching. ACS is a gym that's going to have a few guys on this card, and I'm pretty excited for that. War as well. But some of the names I'm looking at, we have Spitzer Sled, who's expected to be a really big deal. I've seen some of his smokers. He looked really sharp. He looked really good. Pretty well versed, too. He's a jiu-jitsu guy who really likes Muay Thai, and I like that. I'm excited for that. And then you have Dustin Sheffield coming from ACS. He's one of their kind of more prominent guys, even though he's an amateur, so it's pretty exciting to see him get to fight this weekend. We have Mia Graw, who we've talked a lot about with Jordan from Houston Strength. Mm-hmm. She's trained over there alongside Carlos and some of the guys there, Jordan Plutine. And then you have Hayden Bryers is taking on Luis Garcia. And then the main event is going to be Felipe Rocha taking on Lee Charles. That fight I'm very excited for. Both of those guys are awesome. I love jiu-jitsu, so I'm a big fan of Felipe Rocha. Just everything I've heard about him, all the videos I've seen, his instructional videos I really like. He's a goofy dude. I'm a fan. He's coming out of ACS. He's one of their prominent guys as well. So I'm excited to see him fight, but we're definitely going to be there for our boy Hayden.
Yep.
We've talked with him a lot on the show, and we really enjoy having him on. He's a really fun dude to talk to. He's pretty down to earth, but he's freaking smart.
Yeah.
And that translates a lot when he's fighting in the cage.
He's like you said, he's a really cool dude, man. Like, whenever he comes around, it's always a good time. But as a fighter, though, we enjoy watching him so much. Like, we keep up with him a lot on his Instagram as well. And, I mean, just knowing that this guy just started training 3 years ago is nuts to me that he hasn't been doing it longer. He moves very fluid, very, like, natural for being, I think he's about 5'9", right? And so he's a pretty tall dude that fights at flyweight. And, I mean, watching the way, like, some of these combinations, the way he moves and transitions into takedowns and stuff, it's crazy. You know, he's a natural at the sport, and watching this dude on this rise has been nothing but fun. And you know, we were lucky enough to catch his title win, the Fury's Amateur Series title against Michael White, and whenever he got that guillotine on him, and just even the lead up to that, though, like the guy like Michael White, who's also a great amateur fighter to keep an eye out for, Hayden just knew exactly what to do with that fight and knew how to handle everything.
He had his game plan. He knew what to expect, and he just kept sticking to it until it paid off for him. As soon as he saw the opening, he went for it, and it got him the win. Yeah. It was just happened to be super exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, exactly. And so he's taking on Luis Rodriguez, who fights out of Texas as well. Luis, same thing. He's coming into this fight as he's 2-0, so someone's always got to go in this fight. Yeah. So, but with Hayden, though, man, I mean, he has 100% finish rate, so he's going for that finish. I know that Luis, he has one finish as well, one by armbar, one fight by decision. And so I think with this fight, I mean, it's just gonna be, you know, who's gonna be the next thing whenever they go pro, you know?
Yeah, and maybe we're a little biased, but I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking Hayden's going to come out of this a winner. Just having talked with him, kind of understanding the way that he approaches the game, the way that he respects his training and respects his gyms. It's going to be pretty exciting. He's not someone who's going to back down, and we've learned that about inside and outside the cage. So it's going to be exciting to see him go in there and put on a good show. And that's going to be June 12th, Fury Amateur Series. Be there, be square.
Also, if you want to tune in, if you're not able to make it, Garcia Promotions on YouTube, they usually show the amateur fights on there. Yeah. Because the pro fights, the Fury FC pro fights are showed on the Fight Pass. So I highly recommend going to Garcia Promotions, checking out this fight if you got some time. And so, yeah.
I think they'll show them on YouTube. The link will be on their Facebook page. Yeah. So just check it out.
Or message us if you need it. I can send it.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram and let us know.